Okay, so my name's Ruth Merttens, and basically I was here to talk about abacus. And I don't know how much you guys know about the new curriculum. So the new curriculum has come out, it will be statutory from this September, and it represents a complete sea change in how we teach maths. I've been in primary education a long time, too long to remember, and I don't think I've really seen anything that's been such a major change in our maths teaching. Why is it such a big change? Well, first of all, the new national curriculum covers a lot more ground. Pretty much everything we used to do by year 6 is kind of done by year 4 in the new curriculum. So that's a big change in terms of how much we teach and how fast we go. Most of what was in year 7 on the number curriculum is now in year 6. So that's another big change. Secondly, the new curriculum is quite different in style. It's basically a curriculum which is looking at having age-related criteria. So children have to master certain criteria by a certain age. It's not a curriculum which is founded on the notion that we monitor progress. So it doesn't matter where the child starts. They might start here and progress to there, or they might start here and progress to there. As long as they've made progress, everybody's happy. This is a curriculum which says, no, we're not interested in progress. What we're interested in is, do you make age-related targets? That's the kind of key. And so that is a very different style of curriculum from the one that we've done before. Then thirdly, this curriculum has a different feel factor. It's come out of a very different politic. It's got a totally different feel from the curriculums that have preceded it. So this all makes for a really different way of having to approach teaching, and especially if we have certain values that we hold dear. Well, one thing that I hold dear is the notion that each teacher knows what to do when for their children in their class, and that is not necessarily the same for everybody. So the pace, the national curriculum may lay out what we've got to cover, but the way that you cover it and the pace that you cover it at, and whether you spend 4 days on this or 14 days on this, has to depend on your own class. And so it's very important to me that actually when we've got a new curriculum, teachers are actually in control of how fast they go, what they teach when, and how long they spend on it. Some things, if children are not understanding place value, that's so important, we're going to spend a bit longer on it. If children are maybe having a bit of trouble with a particular facet of addition, we may decide, well, we'll leave that for the moment and come back to it. Those sorts of judgments, which teachers make every day, should be the teacher's judgments. So the first thing is about producing some materials where you really put teachers in the driving seat. Second thing is about thinking, okay, we've got a massive curriculum to cover, much bigger than we've ever had before. We've got to do things we've never done in the primary sector, like addition and subtraction of fractions, multiplication, division of fractions, long division, blah, 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 blah. We've got to do all these things. And how are we going to actually make sure that we are teaching for understanding? And there's really 2 reasons why we have to make sure that children understand what they're doing. And they're both really pragmatic reasons. It's not that I'm particularly an ideologue, it's that I think that actually pragmatism dictates that we teach children to understand what they're doing in maths. And the first thing is that actually to do any sort of calculation, you have to make some choices. So if I give you a couple of examples. Found it. No. No. So if we look at those 3 calculations, some years ago, you can tell which year, children were given in an international test the question 2003 minus 5. And what these 9-year-olds all did was wrote 2003 and then a minus sign underneath 5 and then did a column subtraction. Do you know what I mean? That is not a good way to do that calculation. It's a really bad way to do that calculation. It is likely to result in errors. In fact, it resulted in very high numbers of errors. That calculation, 2003 minus 5, is actually all about place value. If you understand how numbers work, you can do that calculation. It depends upon knowing what the number before 2000 is. Do you see what I mean? And as I tell the 15-year-olds I teach, it's not 999, so can we get that straight? That calculation is a stupid one to do as a column subtraction. The second one, 2003 minus 987, is equally flawed being done as a column subtraction, because if you're doing it as a column subtraction, you are likely to make mistakes because there's too many columns to have to, especially at 8 or 9. So again, that calculation is much easier if I do it as a counting up, because actually I can see it's 13 to the next 1,000 and then it's 1,003. It's really easy as a counting up subtraction. Children doing it as a column subtraction, roughly 50% will get it wrong. Children doing it as a counting up subtraction, 99% will get it right. So this isn't rocket science. It's just sensible to choose the right method. The last one is 1,964 minus 827. That's a perfectly good calculation to do as a column subtraction. It's quite sensible. It's a quite good method. My point here is that for any calculation, the first thing you need to do is look at it and think, that's not a good way to do it. This is a good way to do it. A written method may be appropriate. It may not be appropriate. It may actually lead to errors. So before you get into whether you're doing a written method or a mental method, what method you're doing, you have to look at what the calculation is. Because the thing about maths is you don't do all subtraction in the same way. You do them in different ways. And that is the kind of key mathematical point. If you don't understand what you are doing, you cannot make a good judgment about how to do it. And it doesn't matter who you are and what you think, that's always true. You have to understand what you're doing in order to make that key judgment. So therefore, understanding is not a luxury, it's not the icing on the cake, it's crucial, it's central. We have no choice if we want children to be able to do things, but to teach them to understand what they are doing. The other thing I would say is that we have a very good reputation in English education for teaching for understanding. And that is something we're good at, it's something we're quite proud of, and I think it's something actually that we should treasure and continue to do. So I'm a big exponent of keeping that fundamental ground in our education in primary schools. The third thing really is that if you're teaching maths, a key thing is to think to yourself, well, this is what the children can do now, or this is what these children can do now. What do I need them to do next? And also, oh, okay, you can't do this. I thought you could, but you can't. You're having trouble with this. What do I need to go back to be able to make you do it? Now, those two questions, what do I need to go back to enable you to do it? And also, what they can do this, what should I take them on to? Those two questions are all about a progression of skills. If you don't have in your head a good progression of math skills, you can't actually help the children to move on in a really good way. Now, you know, primary teachers are teaching English, they're teaching maths, they're teaching science, they're teaching history, they're teaching geography, they're teaching art, they're teaching PE. You know, we're teaching all those different things. You cannot expect every single primary teacher to have a progression of math skills in their own heads. It's unreasonable. So when you buy some sort of resources, when you get some resources for school, you have a right to expect that someone has done a really good job of making sure there's a backbone of a progression of skills. Now, that has always been true. And every time I've had anything to do with any materials, I've always wanted to make sure there was a backbone of a progression of skills. But this time, what we've tried to do is make it visible so that teachers can access that backbone of skills. They can go into it. They can say, I'm teaching addition and subtraction. The children are doing this. I want to know what the prerequisite skills are. Click a button, prerequisite skills. They think, right, I'm teaching this, I'm teaching one place decimals, what are the things I'm going to go on to? Click a button, let's have a look. And then, in an ideal world, click a button and find the other resources that also do that. So technology here can be used just to save teachers time, because teachers are very busy. We all reinvent the wheel a million times, and we all do it. And so basically, actually, to have something which actually says, right, I can look at this progression of skills. If I don't want to, you take issue with, maybe I'd like to do this a bit later or that a bit earlier. The control is mine, but the backbone's there. Because then the control is in the teacher's hands, which is where it belongs. And the backbone, the skills progression is provided, which is what it should be. So it's kind of about a cocktail of trying to get the skills progression in place, but also the teacher control. I'm not a massive fan of the new curriculum. Anybody who's read anything I've written will know that. I'm not a massive fan for a variety of reasons. I was on the advisory group which advised the government. I can say with complete honesty that none of the advice was taken. So it is the case that I think the new curriculum contains things which are inappropriate for the 21st century. I think it goes too fast, and I think it's just mega crowded. And if Mr. Gove sat down and tried to write maths plans for every single week, he would see that actually he's given us an impossible task. However, that's about choices. That's about deciding what you prioritise and what is kind of, tick the box. Do it, but don't spend hours on it. Roman numerals, it's a poster, isn't it? Do you see what I mean? We're not going to spend hours and hours on it. Some things are really important. I will put a lot of time into making sure children understand place value, because it's crucial, because I know that their future maths development depends upon it. I will put a great deal of time in Year 3 into making sure children get good mental arithmetic strategies, because if they don't have them in Year 3, they won't have them in Year 6. In Year 3, if I'm doing 37 plus 5, I'm not happy for them to go 37, 38, 39, 40, 41, 42. In Year 2, I'm really happy with that. That's fine. In Year 3, I'm not happy. And I'm not happy because in Year 3, I need them to be using place value and number facts to do their arithmetic. Because that way, I know that when they get to Year 6, they won't be flipping counting in ones. Otherwise, they're counting in ones in Year 6. And it drives you insane, doesn't it? So in order to get that in place, it means that I've got to make choices within the new curriculum. What to prioritise, what to spend time on, what to do quite fast, what to do really slowly. And in order to make those choices, firstly, the teacher needs to be able to control what she's teaching or he's teaching and when. Secondly, they need a skills progression to look at, to think, okay, there's these things, I'll do this. And what we've tried to provide on Abacus is the tools you need to make your decisions. Rather than us making the decisions, we've tried to say, okay, the decisions don't need to be made by me, they need to be made by you. What do you need to make those decisions, and how can we make them easy? And then once you've made the decision, I'm teaching this, how can you click a button and get the things you need? We've tried to do the best we can to give the teachers control, to provide the progression, and to teach for understanding. I would say those are the three things that kind of underpin what we've tried to do. And really, if we all do those things, I think we can make the new curriculum our own. I think it can cease to be Mr. Gove's curriculum and become our curriculum. I'd like to see it become the teacher's curriculum. That's what I'd like to see.